The reality is that you can actually grow almost any part of your life like a skill. It's like a skill, you can grow it. In almost every aspect of your life is like a muscle. And this is because you can train it and you can lose it. You can train it to strengthen and slash grow that skill, that muscle, that habit, that aspect of your life externally and internally. Some people believe like you are who you are, you're born away and you can't move out that way. But in reality, you can actually grow any aspect of your life. It's different than saying you may have an innate like advantage in that thing, so you're better at something, but you can grow to match or even supersede the person that has that innate advantage. Um, the only thing for me, I understand. The only thing is determined or is depending on either intensity or time. Some things are possible to achieve. You may, well, let me say it like this. They're technically possible, but realistically, because we are limited creatures or we're mortal, we die, obviously. You have to determine, are you willing to dedicate your life towards it? Some things aren't worth it for your whole life to do. Some things you may deem as worth it. But like, I was earlier, I was in the shower and I'm like, it's crazy because with this mindset, and like when I was in elementary school or like let me say middle school, I like worked my way up to taking cold showers. And you don't just jump into it. And I think it's a way of just thinking about and life in general and wherever you're trying to go or whatever you're trying to achieve, or if you're trying to just grow out of something. I started at the time just dipping hands in the water. Then it got to a point like freezing cold water in the morning before I went to school. And I chose to do this as a way to wake up. And also, like, I innately thought, like, it had good benefits and all that. Like, it just made sense to me. And it got to a point where I could sit in that cold water for the whole shower if I wanted to. But then I noticed, oh, most of the time I was doing it towards my back. So eventually, as time went on, I started to turn towards like my chest. And then I grew that. But it took time. And it was something that initially, like, damn, like initially I was like, nah, I can't do that. Or let me not say I didn't think I could do that, but I know that if I was someone who had a limiting belief, then I would be like, oh no, I couldn't do that, or that's cold. Yeah. But then just to show that it grows and it's like a muscle, I was challenging myself to test this theory out. One was to test this theory out, and also to accomplish and not be limited to this not fear but submission to cold water in the morning. So initially, like I said, I would take the shower in hot water, and then at the end I would dip my hand in cold water, just dip my hands or my foot. Let me say that. And then eventually that became a new starting point. And from there, I was able to keep strengthening the muscle, working out the muscle, growing the muscle. Now I would put my whole forearms. Then I would put my whole torso. Then I would put my whole body. Then, okay, I could dip in, run out. Because I think that's where I really started dipping and running out. But then eventually, not having a limited mindset and also knowing that you can grow any aspect of it, I started staying in there. And my tolerance kept growing. My tolerance kept growing. My tolerance kept growing to the point where now I didn't have to even take a shower with hot water. I could just turn on the cold water and literally take the shower. And it's not always, you don't just jump into that. It's just like how life is regularly. And it wouldn't, and it not that it would be easy, it'd be a struggle, but eventually it became easy. It became to the point where now I only start to feel some type of strain or some type of um, 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 some type of, can't think of the word, but some type of strain or stress in the terms of like when you're working out. That's what I'm connected back to. When when I'm like 5 minutes in, and it got to a point where I could also, and but it over weeks and days, over days and weeks, it got to the point where I could take a full shower in cold water. And like I was numb to it. I didn't feel it as much. I wasn't as bothered until like the end. But then the thing about that is if you don't maintain it, you don't work it out, just like your muscle, you can lose it. And over the years, I like in my mind, I am like, okay, I conquered it. I'm not really worried about it. And over the years, I haven't really been taking showers to the point where I've retraced, I've retracted, I've, I've, I've regressed. That was the word I was looking for. I've regressed back to that initial state. But I've seen the other side. So I know that it's just a matter of time. I know that with pushing myself, being uncomfortable, because that's the reality of this. I think a lot of times when there's a limiting mindset, it's just your fear of being uncomfortable. But without an uncomfortability, you will never see the other side, the growth. And I think maybe one part of removing a limiting mindset, or just maybe you're wrong, is to be uncomfortable. Because now when I get in the shower, like I that cold water shit, like I turn it on, I'm cold. Yeah, the water could be colder in the certain area that I'm in compared to when I was home or compared to when I was younger. But still, it's cold. I can't even sit in that. I mean, my tolerance is a little bit better in my mindset, but like it's like, oh, it's like I'm back to like square one, or like let's say square five. That doesn't make sense, but you know what I'm trying to say. So it's just interesting to me that we all have different points of views of life, in the sense of some people think we're set in our ways. There's people like me who think it's you can grow at any aspect. And internally, you may, oh, you're major, that's just you, of course you can change that. Internally, growing up, like I'm you can change your thoughts. It's harder, it's more difficult, but you can change your thought patterns. You can change your thought patterns, you can change your habits, you can grow it. All you have to do is just actively work at it, grow it. Just like even, when you walking around, you see something, just being, you might bid. You might make a little joke in your head. Maybe, maybe not. But there's people who don't make that joke. There's people who don't bid. There's people who jump in that cold water and it's easy for them. And as time goes on, if you actually, in your mind, you just have to be a little more tentative, and you got to be intentional about these things. You got to be intentionally working it out. You can't just go and lift up just 5 weights and think, or do anything in the gym and think you're gonna grow your abs. You didn't intentionally work it out. You aren't. Are you in? Did you even pick any workouts that would work that out? That work that muscle out? In the sense of the same way, are you actually going to intentionally changing that thing, or intentionally holding yourself accountable? Same way as in, are you holding yourself accountable in your mind when you're making a joke, when you're just making maybe a not so positive, or you're making a negative or not so positive observation about someone? The thing is, you don't know what they got going on, so it's better to not make that judgment or make that unnecessary assertion. But these are all things you can work. You get to the point where your mind's cleansed, but you have to work on it.